Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple minutes. Get those notifications out. Let people know I've gone live. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And as of late, I have been in the inside. I hear that things start to slow down, but in my curiosity, it's kind of like going from a bachelor's to a master's. You know what I mean? You just the never-ending student, that student that's afraid to get out onto the road, so they just never-ending student. And I think that's a little bit sad. I wish quite often that I was moving in that direction where I could actually have conversations and see if really I could make that impact that I think in my real soul, like deep down, that I can. And, it is a little bit in that imposter syndrome. And I was just thinking that, what was the referencing in having that? Oh, because I haven't gone into my live shows. Usually, after I do my lives, I go into my live show to take the lesson for myself. I know there is always something there for me to contemplate or reflect on. Sometimes it's a signal for me to, oh my goodness, get a thumbnail, right? Get a title on this and get it out there. Possibly it might hit somebody the way it hit me. And it doesn't necessarily have to hit the exact same way that it hits me, because we all pick up and we perceive in importance different aspects. What's important to me might not even be a fleeting thought to you. But every once in a while, as we travel down this road together for however long it is, for myself, in that curiosity and in that understanding that, we only have this moment. And, this moment may lead into another moment. Quite often, it doesn't. I have no idea how many friends, and how many acquaintances, and how many people that I thought who would be in my life forever, and yet slowly, right, find myself, it's not isolated. I'm perfectly capable of entertaining myself. And I am grateful that when I searched out, and I did search out, because it was in my understanding that I could not be exploring abandoned farms and abandoned houses forever. Sooner or later, my body would break down, right? Hopefully, I got a couple more decades before that process starts. But it was in that forward thinking. And when I first woke up to the ideas of my brand and what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and understanding, right, I couldn't continue at the pace that I was, right? And this is 7 years ago, and here I am, and the pace has almost not changed. And I show up here, I'm pretty consistent in showing up, and I have. But in that consistency of sharing my growth, in that consistency of actually being brave enough to bring out the courage, even to rub. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, not always rubbing people well. I actually had to look up a word today. It was a really sad day. It was a sad day, a sad word. It was a sad word. It was full of, oh, just deplorable nothingness. And this word that I Googled today was abhor. because just in a conversation with myself, I says, in my lifetime, I I've either been adored or I've been aboard. And I went, oh, does that make even sense? I'm not even quite sure what that word means. So I Googled it, and it so certainly was what I meant, right? Aborable. Like it's something that is so low of lows. It's something that repels people. It's just really, really, really sad word. And I used it in reference to myself. Oh, I couldn't believe it, right? And I'm thinking, I've heard this word used before. I have. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought it up. But then again, I bring lots of stuff up, and lots of that stuff is not even mine. It's just somewhere deep down there that I picked up along the way. And I suspect that that was one of them. But to get back to that idea that I had, that I had to kind of look at myself and look at how I'm changing and how my content is changing and where I am now, not even close to where I thought it would be. But then again, where I am now, I never ever thought I would be. It wasn't even a thought, but it was in that willingness to move in what I knew, understanding, in the lessons that I've received along the way, that my purpose comes from my pain, that my pain was something that I would have to let seep out of the cracks, right? So, in that little bit of imposter syndrome, understanding I have been trying, right? But in the past few days, I haven't been going back into my lives at the end of the lives or the next morning as I'm having my breakfast coffee, right? That I'm having my breakfast, which is coffee, which is something in my lessons today. I said that I was going to try and cut back my coffee, and I did very well today. I had 2 cups of coffee and I never even finished them. And I've been drinking tea and juice. Oh, my juice glass right here. I just didn't want it in the right. Lots of fluids. Right. We don't need the Charlie horses, pins and needles. I want to be 80 years old and riding around on my mountain bike with my basket, right? In my neighborhood would be absolutely amazing. Okay, but let's go back into that imposter syndrome. I didn't want to go into my lives and take in my lessons. I take my lessons in myself. I come in live, but again, after my lives, I usually will come in and take the lesson for myself because I know sometimes I just go into a flow that I'm just talking, right? And you guys know I go down side branches and I have to keep pulling myself back, and I quite often lose track where I was. So that in that repeat, I go, oh, we were talking about imposter syndrome, and then hopefully that leads me into the next thought, which was, you know, important for me to take my own lesson. I am self parenting. It's how I came in. But I found quite often that there were smart people out there. There were there was thought leadership, and there were ideas and curiosities and very interesting people, right, on these topics, and doing so much better job that I could ever hope to be, right? And because I was trying to stay in my own lane and concentrate on what I was doing in my own lane, I thought maybe, right, instead of going off and searching out these lessons, I would allow these other thought leaders, right, to divvy out that lesson for me. And I just don't pick it up just because somebody says something. It doesn't mean it's true. I have an entire process, scanning process for anything to be able to make it to even a thought of being a perspective of mine. I know how important it is what I'm doing because I understand not a lot of people want to be doing what I'm doing, right? But because I'm able to without it causing me too much frustration, I'm saying too much. It's not that right? Because I'm digging into this stuff that I didn't get my heart broken, but that's the process too, right? That's learning from our mistakes, and that's learning some of these big important lessons in forgiveness and tolerance and right, letting go sometimes, right, in many different ways in our lives. But I was kind of embarrassed the past few days. I didn't want to go in because I know I've been having these conversations. I'm trying to bring up the courage and the bravery to divvy out a proper lesson, not in a tight laced, prim and proper kind of way, just in a Cindy kind of way, right? Just in a way that we can have these conversations no matter what time I come in, whether it's bedtime and you're going to bed with these thoughts in your mind, or you're getting up and getting ready for your day, or maybe you're on your way to work and you're just kind of listening to this on the way, right? It's not a matter of how it comes to you, right? It's that it does. And when it does, those are the munchies, those are the breadcrumbs, those are the clues and the follow me's, right? If you want, right? Because lots of times in our choices, we can choose the couch and the remote control rather than the thing that's going to take up our time, take up our resources, take out take out our good mood, right? But we have to kind of take a look down the road to see, right? You don't know if something will work out to your benefit, right? When it all crashes and you think, "Oh my goodness, this is crazy town," to just have it manifest like, "How did that happen? Oh my goodness, I thought we were done in for there and it was," right? And the next thing you know, solutions and resolutions and ideas and things start moving again. But sometimes it's in that repetitiveness, and I have to be consistent to my own lesson taking, understanding that, right? That I am my own teacher in the most part because, again, because of that scan, I'm the only one who can get through without it becoming a bit of a pain in the butt, without it being a pain in the butt. But it manages to get through. Like I said, so many great people out there with great ideas and great information that to all of us in so many different ways, right? So I'm gonna have to right tomorrow. Some of my live shows they're like an hour long. I'm just gonna have to spend a good part of my day tomorrow catching up, right? And I could say, don't worry about it, right? Just there'll be lots of lessons along the way. You don't have to catch every second one, but you have to pay attention in the inconsistency as much as you pay attention to the consistency because it tells a story. It tells a story too. And in my curious state, right, I won't be able to help it. So tomorrow, my morning coffee. Tonight, we're going to be done after this live, and I'll be calling it a night and a good day today. A day that I felt like I was able to get ahead a little bit, right? In those things that I got to be responsible for. Right? I'm not that person. Right? I like the couch and the remote control. I don't have a TV. I don't have a couch. I don't have a couch either. I got some remotes. There we go. Right? But you know what I mean. I like things to be easy. I like things to be digestible for me. And when I come in to do my lives, I want it to be comfortable there too. I want it to be right. We're just having a cup of coffee and a conversation before we call it a day or we start a day. Right? That's the way that most lessons should be able to be absorbed into our system just in those conversations, but um, you know, we're having a hard time having those discussions, aren't we? Just like I said in that imposter syndrome, I'm trying, right? I'm getting the job done, sort of, kind of, but I'm not impressing myself with that, right? Especially when I think that some of these lessons that I do have down packed, but it is in that repetitiveness. So, without talking about it, without bringing the lessons in, right? How are we going to get used to it, right? Like I said, it took me over a year to get comfortable enough to even come in front of the camera. And that's the truth. So I'm grateful for the lessons, grateful for my own lesson in baby steps, right? It's kept me going, right? That no matter what, no matter how I stall out, right? That in that small action is an opportunity to get that snowball going. How about just get that car going already, right? We don't have to go 100 miles an hour, but we do have to pick up some momentum because we got places to go, people to see. Okay, you guys, I'm going to grab a card here. First impression. Let me just push this back here a second. Uh, First perspective, first thing that comes to my mind, and then that'll be Cindy. You're just sometimes. Okay, here we go. We're just gonna grab a card. First perspective. First thing that comes to my mind. We'll just go into it for a couple of minutes. Did I cover that imposter syndrome? You know, it is hard. Sometimes to really see the person that you believe yourself to be. Sometimes, you're afraid to hold your hand up when somebody says, "Oh, does anybody know this?" You know it, but you just don't want those eyes on you. You don't want those ears on you. You don't want that judgment where somebody might pick out something that you made a mistake in, but you know your stuff, right? So for the most part, it's always just the fear of getting started. And that was one of the best lessons that I could have received, because for me, I usually enjoy once I start, right? I don't know what it is, but sometimes, right, I need that boot in the butt myself, just to get that ball rolling, right? And like I said, once it's rolling, I'm usually good with that. I'm usually, right, having a good time. Okay, you guys. Wonder. Wow, we got this word wonder. Oh, get it up close there. Wonder. What does it say? Wonder is the majesty of what's being presented. And that's true for each of us. Like I said, that's going to be a little bit different. Something that, we might have heard a lesson 100 times, 200 times, and still didn't get it. But it's that one time, right? Maybe it's the time of day, beautiful sunset, maybe voice. Maybe it's the colors, the Japanese cherry trees and stuff. Sometimes it's the person that's sitting right in front of you that you can trust and that you're just mesmerized and right, which is wonder in itself, right? But sometimes it clicks and we're like, this is wonder, right? Right? It's like a surprise. It's like I never thought of that. I never thought it could be so beautiful or like this word here, majestic, I didn't realize it could be so majestic. And the person in front of you is thinking, oh my goodness, I only told you like 200 times. I was only trying to get your attention and show you this like 200 times. But it's that one time. And you might not ever recognize what it was that opened you up, right? For me, when I first started waking up to some of these ideas, it was just a matter of a couple of days. It just wasn't even that hard to backtrack in those couple of days because it was unique and fun. And I was sucking it all up and I was doing that photographic memory type stuff. There was nothing that I could come up with, right? And yet there it was. And sometimes in that not knowing, that's where we can find that wonder too, right? That curiosity. But wonder is a little bit different, right? It's the majesty, it's the picture, it's the landscape, it's the impact, it's the feeling, right? And it can pull something up in us that could, right, like it's an absorption in the moment. That's what it is. You're absorbing, you're taking it in, you're just right, right, everything about you is just wonder. Wonder is the majesty of what's being presented. you know for me, it is a sunset on a lake in a campground. It never fails, right? No two sunsets are ever the same. Never. And I am mesmerized and full of, what word do we use instead of wonder? Impacted by the majesty of what's being presented to me, right? And and in those moments is when we can get, because we're just like that, it comes into us and we can make a momentary lifetime, say moment, when I say momentary, I don't mean to just last for a moment. I said in that impacted by something that changes your life forever. It's happened to me many times, right? And I could say more times than I would have liked to, but then again, I would have missed a lesson, right? And for me, I'm grateful that my idea of wonder is a beautiful landscape, right? Right? That I'm not interested in standing on top of Mount Everest and looking out at the mountains ahead of me, or having this -60 Celsius wind smashing me in the face when I've got no oxygen. That's just not my idea of wonder. I would not get anything out of that except absolute terror, maybe fear, drowsiness, a want to give up, right? But that's not my thing, but that's somebody's thing, right? And I that feeling of wonder would be something that would be the breadcrumbs that follow me to make it sure they make it to the top of Mount Everest. Okay, you guys. Wonder. Wonder is the majesty of what's being presented. I hope I left you wondering. And it's not that kind of wondering, you guys. That wondering is that wondering. Okay, you guys. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.